So ciao, welcome and hello. Let me invite you on this tech talk where we will be talking about SEO and testing. But before we will start to suffer with SEO, let me introduce myself. My name is Natália, and I'm working as a QA engineer in a company called Kiwi.com. Maybe you know that company, but I will tell you something about this company in a nutshell, because then you will better understand why are we using SEO, why it's important for us to use SEO. Kiwi.com is a company which offers like travel options for travelers. What does it mean? If you want to travel from, for example, Tashkent to the Kyiv in Ukraine, you need to look for a flight, yeah? But it's a big possibility that you will not find a direct flight with one carrier and everything. So Kiwi has some specific code. We are trying to hack the world. And we are collecting data from almost 500 carriers worldwide. So it's much easier for you as travelers to find the proper flights, you know, from Tashkent to Kyiv or to the another end of the world. But it doesn't sound so unique, isn't it? There is a lot of companies who offers services like us, and that's why we need to use SEO. So, like, you can ask yourself, like, SEO, what does it mean? Like, the shortcut sounds as some disease, and I will be honest, like, sometimes I'm getting headaches when I have to test it, till now, even I'm testing it, like, for a month. Before I will tell you, like, what does it mean, SEO? Have you ever heard about SEO? Have you ever tested? Oh, we have like a few persons here. Okay, so let's look on the definition. What does it mean? What does it mean, SEO? SEO is search engine optimization. It didn't help you, did it? That's why I prepared for you another 3 main points which will describe you better what does it mean, SEO. Let's start with definition. SEO is a set of methods, it's positive factors you can apply on your script of your page. So you will be getting higher and higher in the search results of the search engines. You can ask yourself again, like, why do I need it? We have some old IT joke about Google and search results, maybe you know it. Like, do you know what is the best place where you can hide the dead body? At the second page of the Google. Yeah, and we don't want to be there, yeah, with our like pages and results. That's why we need SEO. Now you can ask again, like, okay, it's a set of methods, like, what does it mean? Like, which methods? These methods, we know more than 200, and every search engine it a bit differs, like engine to engine, but let's say we are talking about the Google, so Google search engine have more than 200 methods you can apply in your script. It's something like, for example, which keyword is using your web page. If it's not too long, if it's not too short. For example, if you have any links on your page, if then links redirect you with some specific status code. For example, 200, 301 status code, 302, 404, or if you are lucky, maybe some status code with server error, 500 and something, you know. So yeah, this is methods which are checking the search engine on your page. It's good to say also that do not replace it with paid advertising. Of course, you can pay to some companies to get you higher in the search results, but this is not a paid advertising. It's not SEM, search engine marketing, or PPC advertising. Everything you have to do when you are doing SEO is putting the effort and the resources and the time. So I really like to say that it's a long distance race. It's nothing like you apply the SEO methods on your web page on a Monday and see the results on a Sunday. No, it's something like you apply the methods on January and see the first results in 6 months, maybe 7. This is how we are working with SEO in a Kiwi. We are really interested in SEO, and we started to focusing on SEO since March of this year. And you can see, and then if you check the search field, I write down the keywords with mistake. First word is in different language, the second word. But even though Google was able to top us in the top 3 search results, this is how SEO works. So we are applying some methods. We are on our search engine as a Google like us, so it stopped us, reach us out and higher in the search results. Here you can see the graph, when we were starting to work on SEO, you see that since March of this year, we're starting racing, and every month we are hitting new record. So this is what will be about this presentation. I will describe to you what is SEO, how does it work, and how you can test it. Of course, we will not go through 200 methods of SEO because we will be here for eternity, but I will just point out the most important for us in a Kiwi. So how does it work? At the beginning was the search engine. I will talk about Google. Just a fun fact. Did you know that Google is used by 86% of users? It's more than 1 billion users of the Google. That's why we are really focusing when we are developing SEO mainly on Google as a search engine. But how does it work? How I can get in the search results on the first page, how Google check me and pick up me. He's not doing the dirty work. He has helpers, and we call them bots or crawlers. When I was thinking about, I will describe it to you, to find some analogism, I was thinking about the Tinder. Do you know the dating app, the Tinder? If you like person, swipe right, not go to the trash. This is how crawlers behave. They're visiting your page, checking the content, checking the structure of your code, and decide I like you, okay, go to my database. I don't like you, go to the trash. What does it mean, go to the database? We call it indexing. First of all, the crawler will come to your page, crawl the content, and download the content of that page into their databases. And from these databases, they are picking up the search results for Google. So that's how the Google pick up search results with bots and crawlers. Okay, and maybe you can ask, I want to start with SEO or SEO testing, how it works in a company as a Kiwi. Again, we have at the beginning, we have SEO manager. Of course, that ideas about SEO is not coming from devs or testers. We have a specialist for that. And in our company is SEO manager who has to be updated every month, with every change the search engines does or do. So he is coming up with ideas that, okay, I think so that this could help us in SEO. Let's try this method. So it's going to the developers who is working on that. And in the end of this cycle, there are one poor tester. And this is us. We have to retest this SEO methods. In a Kiwi, we have more than 1.5 million of URLs, which we have to retest to be sure that nothing was broke, that SEO is working as we expect. So this is the cycle in a Kiwi. It looks pretty clear, but usually it's more prototyping. Many times it's not a success, many times it's a fail. SEO specialist will come with some idea and it totally destroy SEO parameters, and we are starting again and again and again. So when we check the SEO statistic and testing in a Kiwi, we found out really interesting results. We are running per day about 45 pipelines in our merge request. Like, we are running the pipelines every time anything was changed in our code. In this last job, are running the Cypress tests. And I found out that more than a half of them are allocated to the SEO. So every day we are running 45 pipelines with about 100 tests which are checking the SEO with every change. But of course, we are not able to cover 1.5 million URLs with the Cypress, like it's not efficient. So we have to use the third-party softwares, maybe you know it, it's calling the Screaming Frog. We are doing the crawling like few times per week, few times per month, and we are able to hit more than 1 million URLs. To be honest, it should be renamed from Screaming Frog to Screaming Tester, usually after you see the results of the SEO. So yeah, that's how it's working in a Kiwi. We have automation tests. With these automation tests, we are preparing in a Cypress. Then we have the third-party tools as a Screaming Frog, which is most efficient. And then, of course, you can do a manual testing, but it is like the most non-efficient, like even possibility to check the SEO. Okay, let's check some methods of SEO and how we are testing it in a Kiwi. As I said, there are 200 of them, and I picked up just a few of them. If you will be interested in more, like in a sitemap testing, tag testing, or etc., there is a lot of them. Just grab me somewhere there, and we can talk about it. So we will go through the SSR testing, testing of rendering, robot stack, canonicals, and core web vitals testing. SSR testing. Have you ever heard about the shortcut SSR? Or server-side rendering? Very few types of rendering, like your page is rendered. I think that's 3 types of that. It's a server-side, client-side, and a hybrid, something between that. Why do we need a server-side rendering and why we should test it? Problem is that in the past, the crawlers were not able to access your page with JavaScript turned on. So the crawlers just visit your page with JavaScript turned off. It was like SSR rendering. It's like totally, like it sees that your page in its entirety. It's just a pure HTML code. But now it's such a better, like Google is able to also load the page with a JavaScript, but still like recommend to run your pages in SSR mode to see if there is all content you expect to be there. What does it mean? For example, on the right side, you see the regular page with a JavaScript and everything turned on. And there are some sectors or elements which should be visible for a customer with some content and everything. On the right side, you can see that they are missing some of them. And also, if it's visible in a upper bar, it's a parameter, the bot view. It's a special parameter developed by our developers who simulate the page with JavaScript off. That's because when we want to test with a Cypress, how you will test the page with JavaScript off. So that's why we have this parameter and we simulate that, okay, this is a bot view. The bot came to my page and he can see this. And why we test it? Because crawler really like content of your page. And we have to be sure, we have to ensure ourselves that nothing disappeared when we switch off the JavaScript. That's why we are doing testing like this, and we are calling it SSR testing, server-side rendering testing. And how to test it? It's like pretty easy. You are doing nothing extra. Like you're just checking if the elements is visible, if there are some URLs in the code you expect they will be there, and that's pretty much it. You see that I'm just visit the page, checking for element should not exist, as you can see here, that the search form is not visible because it's not important for us to show crawler the search form. Also, we are not interested into showing them, for example, the Google Maps, like it's no information for him, like it's not important for him. So that's why we are checking like should not exist, if anything has a href attribute. Sometimes we are also checking if it has some specific redirects, etc., etc. Okay, this is the server-side rendering. Testing of redirects. I think that testing of redirects are like the most crucial part of SEO testing, because crawlers really doesn't like few types of redirects, as I said to you, like 404 or server errors. That's why we have to do that. And we are doing that with different tools. You have different options to check the redirects. First of all, it's, for example, some extension in your browser, which is really like fast when you are doing manual testing. I'm using link redirects trace, for example. It's really easy to use. You just visit your page or click on some link, and tada, you see if there will be no redirect. And second option is you can use, for example, network. When you are inspect the element, clicking on the network, you can see also the redirections there. Next possibility is to use the web tools. HTTP status IO is very popular in Kiwi, but yeah, it has this advantage that you can't like check more than, I don't know, 50 URLs or something like that. And of course, if you have like 1.5 million of URLs, you can't do it manually. It's insane. So we are when we are doing just the manual testing, we are checking a list of URLs like this, like by set of 50 of them. And of course, you can use Cypress, because we are using the Cypress. And it's really easy code. You just request some URL and checking for a response. And in this case, it's response 200. And of to creating the Cypress commands or functions. So you can encapsulate it into the command and then just, for example, call it the common request and work like this. You see that here is like each loop. Why it is there? Because imagine some website, for example, as Wikipedia. When you visit the Wikipedia, there are a lot of links on the page. So sometimes you have to check all links on your page if they are getting the redirects. In this case, I access one specific element where are like 20 of elements, and I'm getting the links from them and checking if they have a redirection of 200. To be honest, in Kiwi, we are glad for redirections just 301 and 200 is like the best redirections for crawlers. Robots.txt. Okay, this is a very interesting thing. Robots.txt, when you don't know what to do with your life, you can visit some page, like your most favorite page, and put there just /robots.txt. After that, you should see something like that. What is it? At the list of pages, you tell to the crawler, like, oh man, please, like, do not visit it. Like these pages, I don't want from you to index it or follow it or whatever, like just ignore that. Now you can ask, like, if I'm using SEO and want to get my results higher and higher, why should I use the robots.txt? It doesn't make sense. But it does. For example, as in Kiwi, we have some sub-pages. We are calling it a count or profiles. And these sub-pages, you really don't want to crawl. You really don't want to see them in the search results of the Google. It will be a bit weird if I will go to the Google and write down like Natália, Vajdová, Kiwi.com, and there just my profile from Kiwi will appear. Like, it's insane. So we really want to avoid this behavior. That's why we are using the robots.txt. It's working like this. Crawler is coming to your web page and checking like, okay, here we are, the robots.txt, and this file should tell me like, what should I do not visit? And I just don't visit that, and that's it. So if you will check the Kiwi.com robots.txt, there is an amount of pages. You see, for example, different localizations for accounts, another subdomain. Also, for example, Wikipedia or SANAE or whatever you will visit, they should have the robots.txt. So as I said, if you don't have time, if you have a lot of time, just check it. And why to test it? It's something which should not run in every pipeline, for example. It's enough for a pre-prod testing. But it happened also in a Kiwi that we have in the robots.txt pages which we didn't want to have them. So they were not indexable, or like crawlers didn't visit them, but we really want it. So that's why we need this test to be sure that nothing changed the robots.txt and everything what we expect, it will be there. So you can prepare the easy test. Yeah, I'm calling here like sci request.txt, and you can ask me like, okay, but Cypress doesn't have a command like that. You are right. I forget to write down another Cypress command to describe to you what does it mean, sci request.txt. But sci request.txt is like a command you can prepare where we are doing like sci request URL, and then you ask for response body. That's it. And after that, you're just checking if it's containing what do you want to contain. Alternates and canonicals. Bang. Beautiful. So you see here, like, if you are starting to dig in the HTML of your favorite page, you can see, I'm sure that you will find at least the canonical. It's totally on the top. I don't know if I can, yeah, it's here. Why? The canonical usually used to point to itself, like the page pointing to itself to set to the crawler like, hey man, this is the master copy of my page. So use this page. And alternates, which you can see here under the canonicals, they are just localization like pages in different languages. You can see like some Sweden, Poland, Norway, etc., etc. Why? Why we should test this? It's because the crawler not just visit your page and checking for content, but checking also for all your links. And after he will check for all your links, he starts to crawling them again. So he will firstly visit, for example, Kiwi.com, and there find out that we have also localization Kiwi.com RU or NO, etc., etc. And he's starting to also visiting them and also indexing them. That's why we should have the alternates and canonicals on the page. There is also the different type of testing of the ref links, which I will not talk today about, but it's a really interesting topic as well. And how does it look like? You see again, like really short code, you visit some page and checking for you're getting just a real canonical and checking if the URL really like match what you expect. And the same thing you can do with the alternates. Okay, and the last topic is Core Web Vitals. Okay, we were talking about Core Web Vitals today a bit. Have you ever tested the Core Web Vitals before? Nobody? Okay, this is a really interesting thing. Core Web Vitals is performance metric. And, in a nutshell, it's something like the metrics of Core Web Vitals will tell you like what is the experience of the user when he will visit your page, like how long it takes to load the content, how long it takes him, like to the customer to check or starting to click on something. And why we are checking it in SEO? Since May 2021, it became as a new metric for search engines. So they are not like search engines and Google bots are not interesting now just in the content of your page, but also they are interesting in the customer like feeling from your page. So if you will have a good Core Web Vitals, you will have higher search ranking and you will be higher in the search results. Usually, when we are doing like manual testing of the Core Web Vitals, we are using the Lighthouse extension. It's really easy to use. You can see also not just the Core Web Vitals metrics, but also, for example, best practices, the SEO, and etc. etc. You can check it up here, like you see, like the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO, and you can simulate it for example, desktop, for a mobile, for a different location. And there is a really interesting thing in a Cypress, that there is a new plugin, it's not very common, but it's plugin Cypress Audit, which behaves as a lighthouse. And it looks like this. You have some metrics, and you set like values for the metrics as performance, accessibility, LCP, FDP, and etc. etc. It's a long list of the metrics, and after that you are doing just side lighthouse and put here like your config is not here, but you put here custom thresholds, and it's check for this performance. We are just experimenting with it in a Kiwi, but we want to run it in every pipeline as well, because to be honest, our Core Web Vitals are really fragile, and there is a lot of stuff we have to do about Core Web Vitals, because when you see this, like what? This is really like bad numbers, as well as performance. We have to improve that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This is the Core Web Vitals. So I hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and if you will have any questions, like, feel free to ask.
What are the most common bugs found within SEO testing?
Redirections, definitely. Like, that's why we are starting to do the crawling through the Screaming Frog, because we, as I said before, we have just the automation test in the Cypress, and we were not able to cover 1.5 million URLs, so many times it was like issue, like there was another redirection which we didn't expect, but after we are doing the crawling, it's getting better and better. So yeah, redirections.
Okay, and the next question, do you test in production, or do you have a staging area for SEO testing?
We are testing now just in for stagings, but we also are preparing the test for a pre-prod, but yeah, we are not testing SEO on the production right now. Not with the automation test, like when we are doing the crawling through the Screaming Frog, we are doing it just for a production.
Okay, and another question, what other tools do you use for performance testing except Cypress?
Yeah, I have to say that we are not too much into the performance testing. Like, we are focusing mainly for UI testing and SEO. So for now, we are using just the Cypress and the Lighthouse.
Okay, so that's all for questions in Slido. So thank you again. Please applaud once again for Natal.